Where are those who have died, or where are our loved ones who have passed on? And I'm going to get into a few places here, but I want to talk about a couple other ones just in passing. First Thessalonians chapter 4 tells us that those who died as believers in Christ, Christ will bring with him when he returns. So, and no one has died. And it's that simple. If you go to Luke chapter 16, you have the example of the believer and non-believer. Both go to paradise. If you're a non-believer or you didn't make it, you end up on the wrong side of the gulf in paradise. And if you make it, you end up in the bosom of Abraham. And the First Thessalonians chapter 4, though, you need to understand that that's the subject in that. Where are the dead? They're not dead. They're with Christ, and they'll be coming back with him. I don't want to get into did they make it or did they not make it. That's not the point. No one has died. The good, the bad, the ugly. And no one is in hell boiling and already being judged. They're in hell in torment, meaning they're the state of their soul. Hell is a place or a state of one's soul. If they didn't make it in the flesh, they are in hell, meaning they have a departed soul. And they're tormented by that, tormented by the flame. God is a consuming fire. Now, that's a little bit more of an intro than I wanted. Where are those who have died? Where are they? We know they all go to paradise, one side of the gulf or the other. So, and God is a God of the living, not of the dead. And let's just get into it. Matthew chapter 22, starting with verse 22, and it reads, "The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him." They don't believe they think when you die, that's it. They don't believe in life after death. Verse 24, saying, "Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother." And that's true. That's what's written in the Old Testament. Verse 25, "Now there were with us 7 brethren, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife unto his brother." Verse 26, "Likewise the second also, and the third, unto the seventh." Verse 27, "And last of all, the woman died also." So she had 7 husbands, is what this is getting down to, or what it boils down to. Verse 28, "Therefore in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her." They're trying to trip Christ up, and they're not going to succeed. Verse 29, "Jesus answered and said unto them, You do err, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God." Verse 30, "For in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven." They're in spiritual bodies. It's that simple. What did Paul say in 1 Corinthians chapter 15? We shall not all sleep. We're not all going to die in the flesh, but we will all be changed into our spiritual bodies. That's what that means. Verse 31, "But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken unto you by God, saying," verse 32, "I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Present tense, after they had died in the flesh, present tense. Put it that way. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. No one has died. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And again, Luke chapter 16, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, documents that all go to heaven when they die. Some end up on the wrong side of the gulf and their soul is in hell or departed, and some end up in the bosom of Abraham. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1. Let's just go right on. "For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, our flesh body, that's what this is talking about. This is one of my favorite passages in the Bible. I'll just throw that out there. We have a building of God and house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. We have a spiritual body and hopefully immortality, not a mortal soul on the wrong side of the gulf in paradise. Verse 2, for in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven. I look forward to that a lot. Verse 3, if so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked. If you're found naked, your clothing is made up of your righteous acts. That's what this is talking about. If you're found naked, you have no righteous acts. Verse 4, for we that are in this tabernacle, this flesh body, do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. Immortality. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50 forward, which is, it explains that you have to, your flesh body has to put on a spiritual body, and your mortal soul must put on immortality. Verse 5, now he that hath wrought us for the self same thing is God, who also hath given unto us the earnest of the Spirit. Verse 6, therefore we are always confident, knowing that whilst we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. Verse 7, for we walk by faith, not by sight. You don't have to see anything to know that God's real. You just know if you know. It's that simple. Verse 8, we are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. I think all Christians have heard that verse. When our flesh body dies, we are instantly in our spiritual body. And I've watched a lot of what they call near-death experiences. And there's two things that pop out with the majority of the so-called experiences. And I know you have to be careful because people are out there to make a name for themselves or whatever. But number one, they many times they will say they're floating above everybody, like if they're in a hospital bed and they're having surgery on them and they die and they're above them watching the doctors do all these things. And number two, the numerous accounts of the overwhelming feeling of love that they feel when they leave their flesh body. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome. Let's continue on here. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 6. Or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. And to summarize that, when your flesh body starts falling to pieces and you get ready to die, and you do die in the flesh, it's all symbolic of that. Verse 7, then shall the dust, our flesh bodies are made of dirt. I think all Christians know that. Return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. We will go into our spiritual body when we die. We have a flesh body, a natural body, and we have a spiritual body. Again, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Nobody's died. Believers and non-believers alike. God is the God of the living, not of the dead. They're all still alive. Whether they made it or not, they're on one side of the gulf in heaven or the other. And what does it say at the end of 1 Corinthians chapter 4? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4? What's the last verse? Wherefore comfort one another with these words. And that's why I get so frustrated with people that turn that in to a flyaway doctrine. If you have lost a loved one, read 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and comfort yourself with the true teaching of that passage. And stop turning that into a flyaway doctrine. It's so sad.